two major figures from the Trump administration are testing the 2024 waters. According to the Washington Post, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley predicted in February 2020 that Trump, quote, had lost any sort of political viability he was going to have over his claims of election fraud. Last week, she praised Trump's, quote, strong legacy, while also refusing to rule out a presidential run, predicting the decision would be something she'd work on in collaboration with the former president.
Right, and those earlier comments in 2021 were from Nikki Haley. Now former Vice President Mike Pence, on the other hand, boasted about his strong personal relationship with the president on Hannity. In the same interview, he claimed liberal media's fixation on the January 6th Capitol break is a ploy to distract from the, quote, failures of the Biden administration, and that viewers should, quote, focus on the future instead.
I know the media wants to distract from the Biden administration's failed agenda by focusing on one day in January. They want to use that one day to try and demean the character and intentions of 74 million Americans who believed we could be strong again and prosperous again and supported our administration in 2016 and 2020. But for our part, I truly believe we all ought to remain completely focused on the future. That's where I'm focused.
So Team Rising is here now to weigh in. Democratic strategist Andrew Feldman and GOP strategist Malik Abdul. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Malik, let's start with you since we're talking about two Republican candidates here. Now, of course, people who are popular in the party, generally get positive feedback and don't get a lot of criticism from others who are hoping to win with voters with whom the other person is popular. That said, how do you think Nikki Haley and Mike Pence, both of whom seem to have fallen out of favor in different times and in different news cycles with the hardcore sort of MAGA base, how do you think, and do you think they're able to sort of build and look to their own futures when it comes to 2024?
Well, first of all, this is my dream ticket. Outside of Condoleezza Rice and Nikki Haley on a ticket together, Mike Pence and Nikki Haley is actually my dream ticket. Of course, they're hedging their bets. Now, the reality is that in politics in general, we're kind of seeing this in real time. Nikki Haley, I think what Nikki Haley brings to a ticket is that she's actually able to bring some of those moderates over who were not of the Trump world. And in Mike Pence's case, he's able to bring that MAGA crowd over. But all of that is dependent upon Donald Trump. If Donald Trump doesn't throw his weight behind either a Nikki Haley or a Pence on a ticket together or separately, neither one of them will have a chance. Like Donald Trump or not, Donald Trump is still, as the former president, he is the titular head of the Republican Party. So any candidate, it doesn't matter if it's Mike Pence or Nikki Haley or DeSantis or any other candidate, any candidate will in many ways have to kiss Donald Trump's ring, for a better choice of words. And that's just how politics works in general, whether you're on the Republican side or the Democratic side. They're going to need Donald Trump's support, and I am 100% in for this ticket.
So it's a good point about whether, so if Donald Trump doesn't run, because if Donald Trump runs, this is all, for naught. But if he doesn't run, that endorsement is incredibly valuable. Right, it's hard to even overstate that.
Right, and Andrew, embedded in there, isn't there a major contradiction? So in order for them, so let's say the premise that Nikki Haley can pick up moderates on her own right is an accurate one. Start from that premise. But then you add into that, in order for her to be the nominee, she has to have Trump's blessing. In order to get Trump's blessing, she has to do all sorts of things and buy into all sorts of things that undermine her ability to get those moderate voters. So how do they get out of that contradiction?
Look, in my opinion, they're screwed, right? They're screwed. Their only option is to continue what they're doing right now, which is to try to suppress the vote, prevent people from accessing the ballot box, which is what we're seeing across, state house after state house after state house. That is what their play is, because guess what? The voters do not support this iteration of the Republican Party. It is Donald Trump's party. He is their kingmaker, as even Malcolm just agreed to. And the reality is, no one is going to get moderate voters if they have the support of Donald Trump, their dear leader. And that's what's happening right now. And so they're trying to do everything they can to suppress the will of the people from voting.
Malik, I want to get your response to that and just set up the question by saying former President Trump isn't shying away from 2024. He's heading to Iowa on Saturday. That visit is coinciding with his highest favorability ratings in the state ever. So in an interview with Yahoo News this week, Trump shot down the possibility he could be beat by Florida Governor DeSantis, another Republican who is rumored to be considering a presidential run, saying, "I'd beat him like I would beat everyone else." That is a characteristically Trumpian line, the likes of which we haven't had as much access to without his Twitter account in recent months. So, Malik, first of all, respond to what Andrew said. Is the Republican Party screwed? Is every Republican except for Donald Trump screwed, in Andrew's words? And what do you make of Trump's recent comments as well?
No, and I think that we should actually push back on this notion that somehow Republicans are going around suppressing the vote. If the argument is that eliminating things that were implemented in response to voters not being able to vote in person, like 24-hour voting or drive-through voting, or even ballot boxes that weren't in Georgia prior to 2020, and now they've been made permanent. If those things are considered voter suppression, then okay, fine. Republicans are trying to suppress the vote. As far as Donald Trump is concerned, absolutely, Donald Trump will beat anyone in a Republican primary. I'm hoping that Donald Trump does not run at all. Yes, Donald Trump will wipe the floor with DeSantis, who's pretty much Trump-light, and any other Republican. I'm hoping that what Donald Trump decides to do is actually not run and be the kingmaker that he actually can be. I think that's a better fit for his legacy as opposed to jumping back in, because I'm not convinced that if Donald Trump runs in 2024, that ultimately Donald Trump can win. I'm all about the party winning, and I'm not convinced that the third time will be a charm for Donald Trump. Even though he won the first time around, I'm just not convinced that Donald Trump can beat a Kamala Harris or any other candidate that the Democrats put forth. I think that where the party is headed should be someone like a Nikki Haley or a Mike Pence, or maybe some of the other ones like a Tim Scott or other ones that we haven't talked about. But Donald Trump on the ticket, I don't think that the country will be ready to essentially relitigate 2020, because that is what a 2024 Trump, running will be about. Relitigating 2024, and I won't be there for that. I don't think that the majority of the Republican Party will be here for that. Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, for me, or Condoleezza Rice, that is the way to go.
Well, I think Malik is right that Trump on the ticket really struggles in the 2024 general election. But I wonder if taking him off of the ticket actually resolves the problem or resolves the contradiction, because you still have to win his support in order to win the nomination. As he showed, he's going to take a bat to anybody who steps, even 1 inch out of line from where he wants them to be. So you have kind of Nikki Haley, let's say she's at the top of the ticket, or Pence at the top of the ticket, running as Trump's deputy. And I don't think that really solves the problem that I think Malik accurately identified. How are Democrats thinking about that, Andrew? Not that Democrats really know, since they really baited Trump to be the nominee in 2016, and we saw how that worked out for them.
Right. I mean, Ryan, I completely agree with you. I don't see how the Republican Party right now solves that problem without standing up against Donald Trump. And that's not happening. We are seeing people relitigating 2020 day in and day out. These Republicans that are still auditing votes that, just cost taxpayer money. Right. And just to go back with Malcolm's point, they are not just rolling back what was there in 2020. You look at what's going on in Michigan. They're trying to go around. State Republicans are trying to go around the will of the voters to pass, voter suppression tactics and go around what they passed, the voters passed with a massive majority in 2018. So this is way beyond rolling back what happened in 2020, but also, yes, it's a massive contradiction. How can you stand with Donald Trump in a primary and then win moderate voters and suburban voters, suburban women? I just don't see it happening. But here's the key, Ryan, and you've talked about this a lot. Democrats have to deliver. We need to pass the Build Back better agenda, and we need to do it with both the social spending package and the infrastructure plan. And we have to send a strong message that we hear the American people. We hear what they need, and we're going to make massive investment to do that. And we need to do that right now because time's running out.
All right, briefly, Malik, what's your response?
Yeah, well, the idea, I think what Democrats would love to happen is that the Republican Party will completely divorce itself from Donald Trump. Well, that's not what happens in politics at all. It doesn't matter if it's a Donald Trump or a Barack Obama or even a Bill Clinton. Bill Richardson saw what happens when you go up against the Clintons when he came out and supported Barack Obama. So the notion that the party is going to divorce itself, it's absolutely ridiculous. I think that Nikki Haley on a ticket, because she's been able to distance herself from Donald Trump, can bring in moderates who haven't been happy with the direction of the Republican Party. And someone like Pence on the ticket as well could actually bring in that MAGA group. But all of this, again, is dependent upon what Donald Trump does. If he does not support either one of them, we'll see the same thing happen in 2024 as what happened in the Georgia special election in 2020 when Donald Trump kind of gave his lukewarm support to the Senate candidates there. And while he was going around talking about the election being stolen from him, Democrats were bringing their voters out to the polls, and we ultimately ended up losing the Senate.
Or I was going to say, or you see a replay of 2016 in the Democratic primary, in the 2024 Republican primary, where nobody wants to run up against Donald Trump.
Right. And what is unusual about this situation, we haven't had this in a century plus, is a political party sticking by a president that didn't serve out 2 terms. Yeah, Democrats abandoned Jimmy Carter, Republicans abandoned Richard Nixon, Republicans abandoned Herbert Hoover. This is really the first time that a guy loses twice in a row, but won the Electoral College once, loses, and still maintains the presence. But thank you both for joining us. Malik, you get to call Andrew Adam next time. Also, thank you, since we're doing corrections, thank you, Emily. Nikki Haley's comments were in 2021.
February
obviously,
2021.
Obviously 2021, since the election fraud claims hadn't been made yet in 2020, although they were certainly prepping the ground for them by then. But next on Rising, Matt Taibbi shares his take on whether the release of Merck's new COVID treatment was stalled by political and media bias. Stay with us for that.